Think about this. Every year, all over the world, more than 2,000 inmates make a desperate break for freedom. But when you look at the world's toughest prisons, successful escapes, they're not just rare, they're pretty much impossible. Some places, like Japan's Fuchu Prison or the notorious ADX Florence in the US, have never, ever had a single escape. And in El Salvador's CECOT, the biggest and maybe most heavily guarded prison on Earth, the idea of escaping is just laughed off. So, how do they pull off this perfect record? Welcome to the world of Supermax security. This isn't just about prisons. We're talking about engineered fortresses. These places are built with one main goal, not just to hold society's most dangerous people, but to completely crush any tiny spark of hope they might have for getting out. Inside these massive concrete and steel structures, you've got a powerful mix of the latest tech, architecture that's designed to be unbeatable, and surveillance that never stops. It all creates an environment where inmates, often big-time gang leaders, terrorists, or violent repeat offenders, are basically guaranteed to stay locked up for life. People say these facilities are vital, a must-have for public safety, and a clear sign of the justice system's power. But what's really going on behind those massive walls? What kind of extreme measures and mind games are used to make sure these inmates stay put? Sometimes to the point where they just give up hope. Keeping a prison totally escape-proof, 24/7, is an incredibly tough job, almost like trying to roll a boulder uphill forever. Prison authorities are in a constant cat-and-mouse game with inmates, and many of these inmates are smart, resourceful, and absolutely determined to get free. The stakes couldn't be higher. Just one slip-up, one successful escape, and dangerous individuals could be back on the streets, and public trust in the whole justice system could be shattered. But it's not just about stopping escapes. These prisons also have to walk a tricky ethical line. How do you balance super-tight security with treating people humanely and, in some places, trying to rehabilitate them? It's a tough balancing act. There's always the threat of contraband. Think makeshift weapons or smuggled phones. And they always have to be ready for riots, violence between inmates, or attacks on staff. Plus, inmates are always dreaming up new ways to escape, so security has to keep changing and upgrading. Even with all the high-tech gear, there's always the chance of human error, a careless moment, a forgotten rule. And what about the risk from the inside? Staff members being bribed or threatened. It's a relentless, complicated challenge that demands an absolute focus on security. Let's dive into the most secure prisons and their features. To really get how these prisons achieve a zero-escape record, we need to take a look inside some of the world's most intense correctional facilities. These aren't just jails. They're modern fortresses, and each one has its own ways of keeping total control. CECOT, El Salvador, the gang warfare fortress. First up is the Terrorism Confinement Center, or CECOT, in El Salvador. This place has quickly become famous for being basically impossible to break out of. It can hold a mind-boggling 40,000 inmates, making it the largest prison on the planet. The size alone is stunning, but the security is what really blows you away. The prison is made up of 8 separate sections spread out over 410 acres. Each one of these sections has its own double 3-meter-high walls, both topped with nasty razor wire. And if that's not enough, the whole place is surrounded by a massive 9-meter-high main wall. On top of that wall, a 3-meter-high electric fence zapping with a deadly 15,000 volts. Eyes are everywhere. 19 heavily armed sniper towers watch over the entire compound. Around 600 soldiers and 250 police officers are always on patrol, a very visible show of force. Tech-wise, CECOT is a digital fortress. Powerful signal jammers cover the prison and the area around it for 2 kilometers, cutting off inmates from the outside world. Every way in or out has heavy-duty X-ray scanners, and thorough body searches are just part of the routine. They even have a clever, simple alarm. A pathway covered in pebbles around key areas, so any sneaky footsteps will give someone away instantly. And CECOT is built to be completely cut off if needed. It has its own power, water, and sewage systems, so it can run on its own indefinitely. The inmates here are mostly leaders and the most violent members of gangs like MS-13 and Barrio 18, people the Salvadoran government calls the worst of the worst. When they come in, they lose all their personal stuff. At CECOT, it's all about security and keeping people locked in. Rehabilitation isn't on the agenda. Life inside is grim, tough, and designed to break any desire to fight back or even think about escaping. ADX Florence, United States, the Alcatraz of the Rockies. Heading north to the USA, we find the Administrative Maximum Facility, ADX Florence, out in the Colorado High Desert. It's chillingly known as the Alcatraz of the Rockies. ADX Florence is the only federal Supermax in the US, built to hold inmates who are considered too dangerous or too much of an escape risk for any other federal prison. Since it opened its doors in 1994, nobody has ever escaped. Its security is like an orchestra of technological and architectural overkill. The prison is a maze of 1,400 remote-controlled steel doors that can seal off sections in a heartbeat. A dense web of motion detectors, pressure pads, and hundreds of cameras means every single inch of the place is watched, 24/7. The perimeter is a beast. 12-foot-high razor-wire fences, fancy laser beam detection systems, and specially trained attack dogs patrolling the grounds. There's even a central panic button that can lock down the entire prison in seconds, trapping anyone, anywhere. For inmates at ADX Florence, life is incredibly isolated. Most are stuck in small, soundproof concrete cells for 23 hours a day, basically total solitary confinement. These cells are designed to stop any interaction. The furniture, bunk, desk, stool, it's all poured concrete and can't be moved. There's one tiny window, just 4 inches wide, letting in a sliver of daylight, but it's angled so inmates can't see anything outside the prison walls or even figure out where they are in the complex. All human contact is extremely limited and watched closely, with inmates monitored all the time from a central control room. Even their meals come through small slots in the cell doors. The psychological toll of being this alone for so long is a huge part of its security. It's meant to crush an inmate's spirit and their ability to plan anything. ADX Florence holds some of the most notorious criminals of our time, including terrorists like Ramzi Youssef and Dzhokhar Tsarnaev, drug lord Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, and various mafia bosses and serial killers. Fuchu Prison, Japan, the silent fortress. Over in Japan, there's Fuchu Prison, another place with a perfect record. 0 escapes, ever. The exact details of its security are a closely guarded secret by the Japanese Ministry of Justice, but Fuchu is known for its top-notch surveillance, incredibly strict routines, and an almost legendary focus on discipline and order. It's one of Japan's biggest prisons and holds some of the country's most infamous criminals, like high-ranking Yakuza members and violent offenders. Japanese prisons generally run on a system of tight control and very little interaction between inmates. Prisoners are often in single cells, and even in shared areas, there's strict silence and everyone has to follow the rules to the letter. This culture of order, along with advanced, though secret, security tech, makes escape attempts not just hard, but almost unthinkable. Now, the famous escape artist Yoshi Shiratori did spend his last prison years at Fuchu before being paroled. But it's key to remember he didn't escape from Fuchu. His earlier escapes were from other Japanese prisons, with different security, in different times. Word is, Fuchu's guards were on extra high alert while he was there. But Shiratori himself, older by then, supposedly said he was tired of escaping when a warden pointed out he could probably scale a low wall. His time there probably just made them double down on any weak spots they thought they had. Other notable bastions of security. The drive for totally secure prisons is a worldwide thing. In Russia, Black Dolphin Prison, near the Kazakhstan border, holds the country's most brutal criminals, serial killers, cannibals, and terrorists. When inmates are moved outside their cells, they're blindfolded and forced into painful stress positions. And get this, there are reportedly more guards than prisoners, making any kind of coordinated action practically impossible. Escape? Forget about it. In the UK, Prison Belmarsh is a Category A facility. It holds Britain's most dangerous and high-profile inmates, including those convicted of terrorism and major organized crime. It uses heavy-duty security measures, constant surveillance, and special units to manage the people inside. Back in the US, places like North Branch Correctional Institution in Maryland show off what multi-layered security looks like. We're talking numerous layers of fencing, super-sensitive microwave sensor systems, and deep razor wire moats designed to trap anyone even thinking about getting out. Let's talk about the climax key moment, the psychology of hopelessness and unbreakable walls. The physical barriers and tech are astounding, sure, but the real turning point in the story of these inescapable prisons often happens in the mind. It's that moment, or maybe a slow, grinding process, where an inmate's will to escape finally shatters, where hope itself just dies. History has seen some pretty bold, even successful, prison breaks that stunned everyone. Take the 1983 Maze prison escape in Northern Ireland. 38 IRA prisoners overpowered guards and broke through multiple security layers in what was then considered one of Europe's most secure prisons. That event, and others like it, made everyone rethink prison security globally, and directly shaped the design of the Supermax prisons we have today. But modern fortresses like ADX Florence and CECOT have learned from the past. They've created environments so overwhelmingly secure that they try to crush the very idea of escape before it even forms. At CECOT, the sheer number of soldiers and police, combined with the impossible physical barriers and constant electronic eyes, makes even starting to plan an escape a massive hurdle. Inmates know they're being watched from every angle. They can't communicate with anyone outside, and any attempt would be met with a huge show of force. At ADX Florence, the psychological game is even stronger. The 23-hour-a-day solitary confinement, the lack of human contact, the sensory deprivation, these aren't just how they keep inmates. They're tools designed to create a deep sense of hopelessness. Psychologists have written a lot about the serious mental damage this kind of isolation can do, leading to anxiety, depression, paranoia, and losing your sense of who you are. When an inmate's mind starts to break down, the kind of complex planning and unbreakable determination needed for an escape attempt just slips away. The Alcatraz of the Rockies isn't just a physical prison. It's a mental cage, built to make sure inmates give up hope long before they could ever dream of testing the walls. And that psychological element? That's arguably the most powerful lock of all. The world's most secure prisons, from the sprawling CECOT to the stark isolation of ADX Florence and the quiet discipline of Fuchu, are pretty imposing structures, showing just how far humans will go to deal with extreme risks to society. Their clever designs, layers of high-tech gear, and strictly enforced rules do their job. They keep some of the most dangerous people on Earth locked up, often for good. They achieve their main goal: zero escapes and keeping the public safe. But these fortresses of control also raise some tough questions about punishment today. The intense focus on total lockdown, especially using long-term solitary confinement, often means there's no real chance for rehabilitation or for someone to turn their life around. Keeping the public safe is absolutely the top priority, no doubt. But the debate goes on about the human cost of these extreme measures, and whether we can, or even should, find a better balance between foolproof security and the possibility of human change. These prisons tell us a lot about our deepest fears as a society, and our strongest determination to keep order, no matter what it takes. So, what do you think about the extreme measures used in these inescapable prisons? Do you believe these kinds of high-security facilities are absolutely necessary for public safety? Or should there be more focus on rehabilitation, even for the most hardened criminals? Let us know what you think in the comments below. And hey, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell.